So do you think this rule book that is constructed in therapy is more explicit in a way than in or just ordinary conversation, or is it the same thing?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that it's more explicit. It's differently focused than most ordinary conversation. The An awful lot of ordinary conversation is kind of works through cycles that are to some extent predictable. There's a really nice paper by Gale Jefferson on complaining and how people complain to each other in ordinary conversation. And she finds a pattern. It's not a strong pattern that everybody must follow, but she still finds a general pattern of you begin by sort of announcing that you're going to complain. And then you complain, and then the other person voices some sort of response, usually a sort of sympathetic response, and then you build up your complaint a little bit to provide more details, and then the other person ups their sympathy until you reach a point where now it's time to move down, and the person hearing the complaint usually signals that of, basically, I'm done with your complaint now, and the other person, the complainer, then begins to take it down, and eventually they either part company or change the subject. And a lot of ordinary conversation is like that. That there are these cycles that are typical, not always, but typical. And I think what therapy and other kinds of professional interventions using language, therapy isn't the only one, but because they're so orchestrated or guided with a sort of an agenda in mind, then the cycles are different and perhaps to some extent less predictable, because clients don't always do what therapists want them to do, and the therapist may be ready to move on to talking about solutions. That doesn't mean the client is. And unlike in an ordinary conversation where if the people complain too much, you can just say, I have to go now. The therapist can't very well do that. So it's a little bit different, yeah. I mean, the context is different. The purpose is different.